Welcome to Destiny Movie Night, and tonight we are talking about the movie The Godfather. It's quite a classic movie and really famous, and this is a live session, and we are opening up our Q&A section, and anyone can ask questions about the movie or our discussion and participate. And we have Victor here to discuss this really interesting movie. Hi, Victor.
Hello.
And we would like to focus on tonight mostly on Michael, the main actor, played by Al Pacino, how he's changing throughout the movie and during the events he's facing and the decisions he's making. And Victor, what are your first impressions about the movie?
Yeah, well, the first impression that I had about the movie was how this change that Michael goes through, that it portrays very effectively how through the decisions we make in our daily lives, we change, our character change. And basically, if we live decisions where we know we're not doing what is best for all, we know we are basically committing atrocities, then it will have an actual effect on who we are as beings. And that's basically what you see in this movie, that in the beginning Michael is this kid. Basically, he's innocent, he laughs, he has a girlfriend, and they share what seems to be an open, enjoyable relationship. And then as Michael starts to get more involved with the crimes, with murder and violence, basically, that side of him starts to disappear. And at the end of the movie, Michael is basically a changed human being. It's like difficult to put words into, but it's like he is a more serious, more dark, burdened human being. And it's a cool point to look at and relate to it, and look at in our own lives whether we have done the same. For example, are we the same as when we were children? Do we have that same lightness and expression coming through? And if we don't, well, what has happened? What have we done towards ourselves to get ourselves into this state that we're in?
Yeah, sort of innocence, like you have in relation to yourselves and others around. And I also can relate to that, because there was a section of my life when I was like becoming more and more serious and obsessed with things. And even for a moment, I completely lost myself, like who I am, what I want, or yeah, it was quite uncertain experience, and I can relate to this darkness, like this seriousness and closed downness.
Yeah.
And it's a 3 hours movie, and it quite happy and colorful as it starts with the wedding.
Yeah.
And how it goes through these stages of his life and becoming more and more responsible for everything what the mafia represents.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like to share with your life, like you going into the word system, and did you experience something like that according to school or work?
Yeah. So, I mean, and that I can also open up that point, that looking at the movie in a like this, the symbolism of the movie. It sort of represents how, you know, when we come of age and we're supposed to go out into the system and start making money, how there's a tendency within ourselves to lose ourselves and our genuine self-expression. And we basically become someone else. We become our work. We become our studies. We become, you know, it can happen anywhere. We become someone that our friends think that we should be. And we lose that part of ourselves that is genuine, that is real, and we just forget about it, basically. And I have noticed this, for example, in relation to my law studies, which is a, you know, it's a prestigious education, and people come there and some form of competition starts developing. And what happens to many is that, you know, when they come in there, they have their own style, so to speak, and their own type of clothes, and they, yeah, well, they're like sort of diversified, the people that go into the education. And then as the education progress, what happens is that more and more everyone starts to become like drawn to a singular way of presenting yourself, and the goals forward and ahead starts becoming the same. It's not everybody becomes like that, but there's a clear tendency that people change and some part of themselves is lost. And yeah, so that's basically what I saw then in relation to school. And I mean, Talaman, we talked about this before the hangout, that even though we go into the system and we do find ourselves in these situations where, you know, we are in an environment where there's constant stimulus, that even though it is like that, we're still able to retain ourselves, so to speak. And I know you shared a story about that, right?
Yes, basically I finished university as programming mathematics, programmer, software engineer, and I used to work a lot. Like I was reactive, and also I had difficulties to maintain this profile, this systematic behavior, like going every day and participating. And I had so much reactions that I was just fighting it, and I resisted, and I became this battlefield within, because I was not sure why I am doing it. It was just only sort of survival, because I needed the money to become independent, to not rely on others. And it sort of consumed me for a point that I gave it all up, and I wanted to change, basically. And that led me to a search, which ended up with finding the Desteni I Process and starting understanding what's going on within myself and how this word system works. And basically finding my purpose within this whole human system, where each one becomes this competitor and we are fighting for our own survival and basically consumed within this self-interest. And I also can relate to what you said about the law school participants. Like within our university, it was long hair and this heavy metal fan tendency we had within these programmers. And it was interesting that even I had long hair, and about 60% of us became this heavy metal rocker guys until finished university, and then I cut my hair down and change my clothes. But it was like this indoctrination and heavy influence from others, and it was a bit like automatic. I was not aware of yet. I felt like it's helping me, but as I see now, it was not really necessary. Just I was not sure who I am or what I want because of losing myself within this conflict. Interesting.
Yeah. So basically, it doesn't help to fight it either. And that's because what I described now was more like playing along with it and becoming a part of it and sort of losing yourself in that. But it's equally bad to go against it. And I mean, for what I found to be a solution in my life is it's the statement of be in this world but not of this world, which means that I go into a situation and I work with the how do you say, the environment, the people, the programs, the structure, but within that I always keep it clear within myself that okay, in this context I'm doing this because of those and those reasons, but it's not who I am on a deeper beingness level, because I am, well, it's not who I am. Simple as that.
Yeah, and if we lose ourselves within the constant reactions and the worry and fear and within the thoughts and then rushing after desires and chasing dreams, we can lose the very relationship of ourselves. And I had it, and I can imagine many people find this relatable. And just I'm realizing that we have a comment. I can read up from Marzana. Hey Marzana, just wanted to share you guys. In my life, I sort of lost this innocence as soon as I entered the big city school. When I was living on farm with my grandparents, my life was simple and easy, but I lost this ground as I soon as left. The life on farm was very supportive to me, one who I was. Thanks for this discussion. Can you add something about it?
Yeah, I mean, if I make a comparison from my own life, it would be that, for example, when I made a move from my smaller rural area school that was out on the countryside, where I dressed very casually and I was quite relaxed, comfortable with who I was. And then we had to make the shift and go to the, I think it's called college or high school in English. And then I changed everything of myself in an instant to fit into that new environment of the high school. And I would say that, you know, unless you prepare yourself and really get to know yourself and who you are, it's easy. It's very easy to get off, to lose yourself when you're inserted into a new context or situation. When you, for example, move from the countryside into a city. And that's why it is so important to develop a relationship with yourself through writing, and also the Desteni I Process supports with that, so that you know that you can walk this lifetime effectively and not lose yourself in the various survival games that you will have to play to sort of maintain your life.
Yeah, I also can relate that I grew up in a tiny village, and I had to do many things around gardening, animals. And in that moment, I did not really like it because I was already infested with this desire that I want to go into the city, because then I do not need to wake up early. I do not need to go do the responsibilities I had. So I was basically off my own track because I was trying to escape responsibility, and I had to realize when I entered the bigger world system, like going into the city, that there are other responsibilities, and the only solution I found that as you mentioned, that find the way back to myself, like who I am and how I can be honest with myself to make the decisions I will not regret, and also the consequences I cause will not be harmful for others, which is quite complicated if we start to investigate how everything works. But yeah, in a sense, for me, it's still a bit easier in the farm as I walk and work with animals and the forking the grass, like physically feeling and more grounded, as you mentioned, Bansana. But that can also be related to the work in the city if you I don't know, like find the source of this separation. I'm not sure I make myself that clear.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
The source of the separation. So basically what I see that you're saying is that it's not the even though the environment do have an effect, in the end it's about your relationship to yourself, basically, and where the city has more stimulus activating more dimensions of your mind, which makes it easier to lose yourself, though also in a way there are more opportunities to see where you are enslaved to various constructs inside your mind, because you will have this constant stimulus going on.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that being in this world but not of this world in terms of the system, because it's obvious that it's not really the best for everyone.
Yeah.
So we have to question also what we participate within, and also in terms of the innocence, how I can support myself to find this innocence even within different environment, if I am able to relate to myself. For instance, in the city, I can enjoy sort of innocence when I travel with mass transit and I am just present and I accept that I am now here, and for half an hour I am standing here and embrace what is here and what's going on. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's cool, like finding moments in your daily life where you can practice that innocence of being here. And that also brings us to the question, like what is innocence and how can you express innocence, like, and reach that point of innocence.
Yeah, Marzana just made the comment that I really like this expression of Victor, that you are in this world but not of this world. Thanks for explanation of this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of what is really innocence, in relation to the movie, it's a difficult point how Michael could find innocence within where he is in terms of his family, his father, his responsibilities. But then, as I see, he made decisions because he could, maybe even he could walk away from all this, because until the certain point of one decision he made, he was like a blank slate. He was innocent.
Yeah.
But then as he made the decision that participating within the clearinghouse around the traitors and the collaborators of the enemies of the family,
Yeah.
he became basically a cold-hearted killer.
Mm.
And also you mentioned the EQAFE interview about
Yeah.
supporting understanding killing.
Yeah. So there are some great EQAFE interviews, and I don't let's we can post them in the description bar after.
Okay.
But anyway, just a short summary of them, it's where they explain the consequences of killing and sort of the massive implications that it has, not only for yourself, but for basically the entire physical environment, that making a decision and having the intention to kill another. So it's a great interview.
Okay, we will link it then.
Yeah.
And in terms of the movie, I would like to return to the part when Michael had these events like losing. Okay, we are going to spoil. If you haven't watched it, then you should, and then return from here, because he is losing his wife, basically in Sicily, and then as I feel, I had experiences before, like when something bad happens with me, that I became more serious, more closed, more dark, and see like becoming this pessimist. And that kind of experiences I invoked into my mind, that made me a bit less innocent, so to speak. If you can relate to that, like, have you ever had experiences or did you something, but after that you had like a regret or shame, and then how did you find your balance again?
Yeah, I have done that. And let me just see for a moment. Basically, I have been quite bad with sort of being shameful for the things that I have done in my life that haven't been supported. And that is actually what I found almost like a skill, so to speak, to be able to feel shame for things that you've done. But when I have in later years, when I've looked back, I've been able to see things that I've done that haven't been supported, and that have brought up shame within me. But it hasn't, how do you say, made me a darker person, because I have actually made a commitment to myself to look at those points, what I did, why I did it, and then also to not do it again, which I see is important. Else you become filled with regret and shame, and that will probably lead you into becoming a more secluded, less genuine, open person, because you know that you're hiding a lot of, how do you say, you're hiding a lot of secrets within yourself that you never tell anyone, not even yourself. So,
Yeah, I can relate to that. I had these shameful experiences, but basically I was like, with small actions I did not do, but I wanted, or I felt like I should, but I didn't stand up for myself, or even like a apparently insignificant events, like in the school, seeing a girl and I like her, but I do not approach her. And then I start to hate myself because I did not go to her. And then I'm becoming obsessed with these conversations in my mind, but I should have walked to her, but I didn't. Shame on me. Wow, wow, wow. And then focusing on this experience of shame instead of just stepping out of it and then just go, hi, this is who I am. How are you? I don't know. And I had to walk through these layers of my mind, walking these self-forgiveness writings, and then saying the words that what I forgive, because I cannot live with myself anymore like this. I have to change because unacceptable, and this is what I do not accept. I stand up and then find practical ways. And I had this like when a tree grows, like this force coming up from this life force for myself. Like I have to stand up and I have to change because it's not cool, and I don't want to be closed. I want to find this innocence again, and I want to smile like honestly and look into everyone's eyes. I had this experience.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And also, this is a little bit off topic, but when you said that point of how we see ourselves do something and then we are dissatisfied with it and say, oh my God, why did I do that? And we start to backchat and talk about it. It's also interesting how we deal with such situations, because when we do that, when we judge ourselves for something we do, we actually miss the point of understanding ourselves and getting to know ourselves. And you know, it's like almost how parents are with their children, because if a child does a mistake, the parent is, many times the parents will say, you bad child, you're not going to do like that, never again, bad, bad, bad. And then the child doesn't ever get supported to understand why, also why you shouldn't do that, and also how you can correct the point. So that there's like a lack of gentleness also in terms of how we look at ourselves, where we are very brutal and sort of have a tendency to break ourselves down when we make mistakes, instead of supporting ourselves through, for example, then writing, self-forgiveness, also self-commitment statements, finding practical solutions.
Yeah, I can relate this brutal cruelness towards myself. Like I am like a dark animal, but I have to make behave, and then I don't know. And then I realized that it was just an obsession in my mind, and related to how my family, I copied basically. I didn't have a better example when I was a child, and then I became similar. And also in relation to Michael, I see that he probably grew up with his father. He's I don't know, somehow probably made impressions to him, which became alive. Somehow these values he started to represent and stand by. In the beginning, like, that's my family, okay? It's not me, he's saying to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, interesting.
That's an interesting statement to make, actually, because, yeah, in, for example, Destiny, when we walk through our minds, that's basically what we realize, that, okay, you are your family, you are your parents. That's who you have become. And it's an interesting point to realize. Also quite supportive, because then you're able to utilize your parents as mirrors to see, okay, where do I do that? Or how do I do that?
Yeah, definitely. And then to realize that I can change. I can explore, experiment with how I can change myself, my relationship to my family members, or how I can take responsibility not only for myself, my own self-interest, but also for the family.
Yeah.
Without compromising the integrity or innocence point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
So any other point from a movie you would like to bring up? You could relate to or enjoyed, or
No, not as I can see right now. How about you?
I had this experience when he's in the hospital with his father. You mentioned it before, like he's making his father safe, and he's moving into another room, and then he's saying to his father that I'm with you now, Father, I am with you now, symbolizing that now I am standing in the same starting point as you.
Yeah.
And then from that moment he starts to change, basically. It was interesting.
Yeah. So it's interesting to look at what drives him to do it. Maybe potentially some form of guilt or morality or fear, maybe like the fear of losing his father, the fear of this, because he could walk away from it all, but he doesn't do it.
Yes, and in terms of what his father is and what he represents in the system, he's like the power. He's the pillar of an order, sort of justice in opposition of the government, and his word is like the law, so to speak. And he's I don't know. I felt like the Godfather is sort of like a prince or someone who is really important, and his influence really changed the world. And in terms of how his family is being threatened by destruction, he maybe find it that it's more important to keep rolling than disappearing. Yeah, maybe it's the guilt, but as you mentioned, like guilt of he tried to separate it himself before these values, and seeing his father as vulnerable and fear of losing. Interesting. I find these significant moments are as important because within these moments we can face ourselves directly without the masks what we put on towards the world system or the rules we do for the survival, for money. Because within these intense moments there is nothing. It's like we are directly experiencing reality, and then in those moments we have no choice, basically, but who we are programmed ourselves to be, or what we can take responsibility for within awareness. So I find it really important to find our purpose within this life, and also to find the purpose to walk into world system within this principle that we can have influence even within this self-interested based world, and to see what can be a difference or what we can accumulate.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, what I find with these Destiny guys, that so much can be done if we group together and work together, and not focus on our differences, but what is actually equal within ourselves.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, basically, then this should be Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay. Then thank you very much for being here, Victor, and great discussion. And thank you,
Yeah.
Marzano, and anyone who watches. And check out Desteni I Process and EQAFE links. We will put it there into the description area. Thank you very much.
And
Goodbye.
also light, you know.
Yes, Desteni I Process Lite course is a free online course, and anyone can start grasping these concepts, what we talked about, and how to apply self-forgiveness, and how it's practical common sense, basically, to map out our minds, and how we can slow down within and take responsibility. It's really outstanding support. Okay, thank you very much. Then bye.